Hey there, everyone. Today I have to make a video where I talk about something pretty serious and pretty bad in my personal life. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. In 2 months, I'm probably going to be homeless. Because essentially what happened was I moved from Detroit to Boston to try to get away from my ex, who I was with for about 4 years. We had already been broken apart for almost 2 years at that point. But I'll explain later what the situation was going on with that, because I feel like it's an appropriate time to finally be public about what happened behind those closed doors. But first, I wanted to give an update on what this means for the channel. So I want to stress I'm doing everything within my power to keep the channel running. And, there will probably be a decline in the quality of the audio. I may not be able to upload in 4K anymore. And you're probably thinking, what the fuck? This is crazy. You're literally about to be homeless, and you're worried about the quality of your videos. Well, the thing is that this channel and researching Felix Guattari and learning more and more about this stuff is a major reason why I'm even alive today, because it kind of helped me pull my stuff together. I discovered Felix Guattari when my psychosis started to get really bad. And even though it took a very long time to be able to even stabilize and recover from what I had experienced in 2020 and 2021, he was an instrumental part of that, and learning about him and learning about his, the history and the things that he was involved in, that really helped me. Because, when you are diagnosed with psychosis in any capacity, right, and you try to find, resources on how to recover, on how to bring your life back together, the resources can be very grim. There's not really much support. Internal communities are more just about trying to stave away the misery than really producing something productive, producing something revolutionary. And, a lot of the people who are interested in the history surrounding psychotic people, it's almost like torture porn, nonstop. Like, yes, psychotic people were treated horrifically throughout the history of, the West and in the history of institutions and stuff, but I think it's also important to for our well-being to be aware of movements that weren't like that, right? It's really shocking to me just how readily these people are able to write off the attempts to maybe make schizophrenics' lives less shitty just because some of them were associated with the anti-psychiatry movement, where they were critical of the relationship of the diagnosis of schizophrenia and stuff like that. And something I like about Felix Guattari is that even though he was interested in those movements, largely for their political, revolutionary relations with schizophrenics, he was critical of them in a way that, made it clear that he believed that schizophrenia was real, and it was a illness, and it was something horrible to live with. It was not just a glitch or whatever, and it was a part of human, experience. And, he tried to really produce a revolutionary narrative, something that does not exist anymore for schizophrenics. I mean, if you're autistic, you're already aware of things like neurodiversity and the battles between, Autism Speaks and autism advocacy groups and things like that. But schizophrenics don't really have that in the modern day, right? Like, it pretty much died with the majority of the these kinds of movements that were adjacent to the anti-psychiatry movement. And I can understand people's criticism of, psychiatry from like a, anti-psychiatry from like a scientific perspective. I think a lot of those people who were writing those things did neglect important things, but at the same time, our relationship with our understanding of history of psychiatry is something that just tells us that there's no hope. And that's just simply not true. When you read about the history of Laborde and institutional psychotherapy and Guattari, you realize there is hope, right? And there's hope in situations like this, So to go back to my situation, essentially what's going on is that I moved into a subletted apartment, right? And I'm currently having my apartment paid for by my subletter, and the intention was for me to get a job soon after arriving here, and that would have not have been a problem if it weren't for the fact that our incredibly stupid and incompetent leadership of this country have decided to completely just destroy the economy. Like, it's not just me who's being impacted, it's everybody. And part of the problem is that before I, left the tech industry, my main skill set was within tech. Now, a lot of people think that the reason why it's really hard, you may have heard of tech people having a really hard time getting a job right now. And a lot of people think it's because AI is somehow replacing these roles. That's bullshit. That is a marketing scam that is trying to make people think that AI is better than what it really is. What really happened was Elon Musk essentially dumped... You remember when Elon Musk got rid of all those jobs at Twitter? That basically dumped a bunch of people onto the job market with Twitter on their resumes, right? And then other companies followed suit, because before in the 2010s, a lot of companies were hiring excess employees because they wanted to have those assets on call. They wanted to have specialists and all sorts of shit. That's why they had hundreds of thousands of employees. And Elon Musk, being the great genius that he is, cut all of those jobs. And not only did he just greatly disturb the job market, but he has caused a sort of ripple effect that has caused pretty much every company in the tech sector to think, what can we do to cut people? And this, you can kind of see how it correlates alongside the lies about how AI can automate, all these things. And the thing is that we need to make clear that this is all shit that is going to damage all of these companies in the long run. Elon Musk doesn't care about Twitter because Twitter to him is just a means to do his own Dearborn Independent, which, if you don't know, Henry Ford bought out a local newspaper in the 1920s to spread anti-Semitic propaganda called the Dearborn Independent. And this is exactly what Elon Musk was trying to do with that. That's all he wanted Twitter for, because he's a racist scumbag who's pissed off that his trans daughter won't talk to him anymore, and he can't use money to buy everything and control everything in his life. He's a giant man baby piss baby, right? So as a result, it's really hard, despite having 10 years of experience as a Java developer and maintainer, to find another job, right? And, basically I've been in a really hard place trying to find work. I did manage to work at GameStop for a month, but this was during the Switch release, or the Switch 2 release, and the tariffs completely fucked over everything. And the week before my last day there, they were cutting almost a whole 40 hours from the from the labor list or whatever, or the schedule. And I knew my time was done when I saw that. It didn't matter how well I worked. I mean, every single person who was hired the same time I was as a seasonal had no chance, right? And I'm pretty sure they've already fired other people too, because they just cannot sustain the hours. They cannot sustain the income. And I can't flee to my parents. My mother literally, so this is something I don't usually tell people, but my parents were extremely abusive, like unusually abusive, to the point where, like, when I try to discuss the abuse that I experienced growing up, that it's so extreme and unusual that even people who deal with other kind of trauma in those kind of groups, it's alienating. They don't understand that it's so intense that they're like, holy shit, I can't believe this was your life. And, I get to a point sometimes where I can't believe it either. But my mother pushed my twin sister to suicide almost 10 years ago. So I want nothing to do with her. And my father is a Zionist pig who the last time that I talked to him in person, he said some of the most disgusting things I've ever heard from somebody discussing Palestinians. And I literally had to shift the subject to the suicide of my sister to make him stop, because he was just that down and deep. So there's no way in hell that I'm going to move in with my parents. So I am currently trying to find solutions for everything. Thankfully, I don't own a lot of things. My books are secure somewhere in a place that I trust. Currently, I'm trying to figure out where my desktop computer, some tapes, and a couple of other small things that I have are going to go. Thankfully, I just don't own a lot of stuff. That's pretty much the majority of what I own. So, like, I'm pretty sure I should be able to find somebody who can store, like, 2 boxes worth of stuff, right? It's a very small amount of stuff. And so that's not, like, my primary concern. Um, to like really stress here, I'm here to ask for money, right? I'm here to ask for, just support, help. I know that when I moved here, my car broke down, and that was already, a significant amount of donations. And I know I'm asking for donations again within like 6 months. I know it's a lot, but I'm really up shit creek right now, and my ex is not doing anything to help. She's completely useless. This person I fell in love with when I was psychotic, and she was very irresponsible. She was supposed to move up into Michigan with me and help me by finding employment. She never found employment. Instead, what happened was I managed to find a job after recovering initially from my psychosis, and she extracted tens of thousands of dollars from me. She totaled my previous vehicle in a DUI where she had an alcohol blood level of over a blood alcohol level of over 0.16, and she didn't even get a job to pay that off. She made me and her friends pay the courts for the fines. So while I still have contact with her, I don't have any confidence that she's ever going to take any responsibility for the damage that she's done to my life, and she's been damaging my life for the last 4 or 5 years. She can't even be asked to fucking send me my testosterone syringes that I accidentally shipped to my old place in Michigan. It's just unbelievably frustrating. I can't even have anything, and it sucks because back when I did make money, I used that money to help people. Yeah, I did get scammed out of a lot of money because of her. Like, she would tell me that, oh, this $500 a month is going towards helping somebody. And really what it was going towards was paying off a debt that she should have been paying. And she would have been able to pay no problem if I was, if she had just gotten a job, because I would have supported all of the other stuff. She could have just sent that money responsibly, but she never did, and she still doesn't have a job, and now it's really hard to get a job. So yeah, in terms of my finances, what I really need is about $150 a month currently, and most of that money is going towards a credit card, which again is it's not maxed out. It's at $1,600. It's something that would be manageable if I had even a minimum wage job, but I can't find anything, and I'm desperately trying to find something, right? I took a break last week because I was just really distraught about everything, and really upset. But basically, I have credit card debt of about $1,600, right? And that's where the majority of the money is going towards. And the problem is that that's just going mostly to interest. It's a fucking scam. And like half of it just goes towards interest whenever I make a minimum payment, and that's all I can afford right now. So basically I'm asking for donations, and the way I'm going to set this up is this. Every month I need about $30 for a bus pass to get anywhere in the city. That's really important, especially if I'm going to be homeless. I need about $15 to $20 for my cell phone service. Currently I'm getting the cheapest plan that I can. On track phone. I get it every 2 months. It's for 60 days for $25. And then there is the credit card debt, and that's it. That's really it. That's all I need in order to, pay my dues outside of, having a home and everything. And the reality is that unless I get like a huge amount of donations, which is very unlikely for a channel that focuses specifically on disability theory and Guattari, there's no way we're going to be able to just get housing from that. I really need to find a job. So I will say this, if you happen to know anybody who needs an experienced software developer, yeah, I did Java, but I can learn other languages fairly quickly. I'm a good developer. I offer my services much cheaper than the competition because I'm disabled and I don't want to have a full-time job. I want to have something part-time where I can manage my disability and also provide service to you. And the reality is that when you're paying for a full-time employee in a software development situation, you're not actually getting you're not getting the value of a full-time employee like you would at like a factory or something, because there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of there's a lot of time where developers aren't really doing anything because they have to wait, or they don't have enough resources, or they have to download something or whatever, or even they just need time to think about a solution. So you're not even getting what you're paying for. If you're paying full-time for a software developer for hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're getting ripped off, quite frankly, right? The entire industry right now is essentially, like, what people don't understand about what employers want, right, is that this is something that has been sold to people by like the new money people in tech, right? So like people think that they need to have a micromanaged employee on the ground all the time, and you only really need that in very particular situations, right? So if you do need a developer, I would absolutely be on board with that. Like, we'd have to work out whatever like weird international shit we need to do if, you're an international company or something like that. But that is absolutely something I am open to. You can contact me on my Discord server, and I can send you my resume. I can send you my accomplishments, and we can have a discussion about that, right? But yeah, and to be clear, if you need smaller services, something on like something like a pop-up website, or something like a blog or something, I can work something out for you that over the course of a year will be cheaper than Squarespace or that Zionist pig company Wix. So like, those companies are ripping you off because they know that you don't know how to set up a website. So instead of paying $20 for a domain and then having a website hosted somewhere, right, they are making you pay $30 a month for the same service. So, if you want something that is actually like, you own the code, you own everything about it, and it's not going to be a rip-off, right? I can also work with you on that, right? But outside of that, I'm not really sure what my options are at this point. I'm trying to talk to local people to try to see if I can find like positions, but even the more like local positions are very highly competitive, and I just don't have the right resume for anything anymore. And the jobs that I used to take are evaporating very quickly not because we're not needed. It's because these companies are on a suicidal death march, thinking that they can cut as much as they want. You know how I described fascism as something where it just keeps cutting and cutting until it kills itself? This is the same thing, but within a corporation. So sorry for the bad news, and sorry for having to beg to my audience for money, but I do have some links in the description if you want to donate to either my PayPal or my Cash App. I might even set up a GoFundMe so people can see like the total amount donated, and we'll go from there. But yeah, to be clear, because this apartment is a sublet, and because I'm really not interested in living with my current roommate anymore, and she's not going to buy like donations as a suitable form of payment for rent, because she's like a fucking boomer who thinks I'm a piece of shit because I haven't found a job in the worst economy since 2008. So I really don't want to waste my time with that shit, and I'm gonna try to find other living solutions. Maybe I can find something where I'm hanging out with a bunch of queers, something cheaper, but we'll have to see. It's a total mess right now, and I appreciate any penny that I can get because it's really bad right now. It's really bad. Thank you for listening, and I apologize for this level of desperation.